About half of all U.S. children ages 12 and older have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Currently, the shots are not available for younger kids, but that's likely to change. Former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb believes children 5 to 11 could be offered their shots between Halloween and Thanksgiving.
Now, the vaccine for kids aged 5 to 11 is basically the same formulation as the current vaccine, just in a lower dose.
An even lower dose will likely be offered to children ages 6 months to 4 early next year. When it comes to adults, Gottlieb says businesses should decide whether to require workers to get the jab, adding President Biden's vaccine mandate may not survive legal challenges.
A lot of businesses that were considering mandates now might wait because they're going to wait to see what the federal government does. And it's going to take the federal government months to implement this mandate if they're ever able to. And so you might have actually slowed down the rate of decision making in the private community.
He says businesses could consider natural immunity in lieu of vaccines.
I think we need to recognize that people who have immunity that's acquired through infection, that immunity is durable and it appears quite robust. I think the question from a clinical standpoint is how long it's going to last.
When it comes to the pandemic, Dr. Gottlieb has reason to believe the infamous Delta surge will be the last one. Then COVID-19 in the U.S. would transition to an endemic, where the virus becomes a seasonal pattern like the flu.
I think that this might be the last major wave of infection. The idea that this is going to continue to mutate very quickly and all these mutations are going to evade our tools and this is sort of going to be an endless crisis, I just don't see that.
However, he says the U.S. must take action to stop the next pandemic, perhaps the bird flu, which could be right around the corner.
And I think that there are things we can do to prevent this kind of episode from ever happening again.
In his new book, Uncontrolled Spread, Dr. Gottlieb recommends fixing mistakes such as not being able to quickly deploy large-scale diagnostic testing, which could have identified asymptomatic cases.
You'd see a situation where 30 people would be in a room, everyone would be fine, and then 25 people would get the infection. And so the assumption was there must have been a contaminated surface that 25 people came in contact with. But what actually was happening was there was someone who was asymptomatic in that setting who infected the other people.
The CDC, which usually takes months to collect, analyze, and disseminate information, found itself ill-prepared when it came to the need for speed.
And then when they issued guidance to try to advise us on how we should be taking steps to reduce our individual risk and how businesses should be taking steps to reduce their risk, the guidances often weren't very well informed. They weren't articulated in a way that they could be actionable by consumers.
Then came the inability to manufacture first-line-of-defense drugs, such as antibody treatments.
We really didn't have the adequate manufacturing capacity we need to be able to prepare those at the scale that was required. And even now we have shortages of those drugs. They're starting to be rationed again.
And finally, the U.S. trusted other countries to admit the emergence of new diseases within their borders.
And we've seen time and again, in a time of crisis, countries don't share information, and we've been fooled many times.
Dr. Gottlieb says U.S. intelligence agencies like the CIA and the NSA should expand their missions to include surveillance of suspicious foreign outbreaks. Lori Johnson, CBN News.